Hi, I'm Robin Evans, and this is my home, which is a 36-foot steel Roberts boat. And I'm a 59-year-old retiree, I suppose you could call me. Originally from England, finally moved on board absolutely permanently, full-time in 2015 actually. She's my freedom and my mobility around these beautiful islands off the British Columbian coast. I have 400 watts of solar power, so I have two wings on the side of the boat that I can raise, and I have 200 watts on the top, and that keeps me going during the summer months, though obviously during the fall and the winter months that is reduced and I come into the dock for winter. I'm going to show you the inside of my boat. This is my galley area, which is great because everything is within reach. I have a 3-burner stove, I have an oven, I have a double sink, and I have a fridge and a freezer which is in there. And I can also strap myself in if I needed to. I mean, this is mainly for offshore. You can put a belt on here. So in here is the fridge and freezer, which isn't quite big enough for me in the summer months when I want to keep things really cold, drinks and so on, and salad, a lot of salad. And then I have a freezer in here which is pretty empty because I need to go shopping. My fridge freezer is electric and runs off a little compressor that's in the engine room. Through the hobbit hole in the head, which is behind you, and yeah, doesn't use too much power. You know, I'm always able to use that. These drawers pull out, which is really handy for storage, and I can lock them into place so that when the boat's leaning, they don't come flying open. Have another one on the other side. I have a freshwater and a saltwater tap, and down here is how you pump the water, which is great because there's no electric pump involved. For me, the fewer pumps the better, the fewer electrical things the better. So I have salt water for rinsing things when I'm out and trying to conserve water, because that's obviously an issue when you're living on the hook. And yeah, everything is kind of within reach. I also have these drawers here for storage. Very useful gadget. So I keep, you know, pots and pans. I live on a sailboat because of my parents. Basically, my parents met in 1958, fell in love, and through their talking, decided they wanted to pick a hobby that neither of them had done before, and they picked sailing. And they went off during their courtship on a little 14-foot dinghy with a little awning over the boom, and courted for 6 months. My mum actually asked my father for his hand in marriage. He said yes, obviously, and within 6 months they were married. And from that initial 14-foot boat, they bought a 21-foot boat, a 32-foot boat. We left England, went cruising. Dad worked along the way. Sailing was as instinctive as riding a bicycle. And we lived on board, eventually ending up in the Caribbean until I was 18. So, you know, I can sail, and it's in the blood. It's where I feel a sense of belonging. I really feel a sense of belonging on the water. I'm so comfortable, you know, being on my boat. This is what's called a chart table. Originally, I would have had charts. I still do, but I don't really use them very much. I tend to use Navionics for navigation, which is a gadget which goes on my iPad, and I can see exactly where I'm going and where I am. So I have a raise up bit here, full of all sorts of stuff, you know. I don't use as often. And then I have these two drawers here, which again are especially contoured so that when you're sailing they don't come open when you're sailing at an angle. I have a VHF radio here, which means that I can communicate with other people, though this one is actually 30 years old and needs replacing. Over here on this panel here is my kind of control panel. So I have all the switches that operate everything from power lights in different rooms, to running lights, to ankle lights, to even things like you know, that pump there pumps diesel in for my diesel heater, and a bilge pump. Can't hear it, there's no water in there, but yeah, that's the bilge pump. I also have battery switches for the solar system. So this is a controller, 40 amp controller. And I have a tank tender which tells me how much water and diesel I've got in each particular tank. I hold 100 gallons of water in one tank, and I can't remember how much similar in the other. And I also have 167 litres of diesel, and I run at about 3 to 4 litres an hour on my 40 horsepower engine when I'm using it, but most of the time I want to sail. Okay, so this is the head. I used to have a composting toilet, it just wasn't working for me, so last year I put in a pump out head. It just manually pumps out using salt water. Lots of spaghetti junction of hoses over there, because I can pump it into a holding tank, I can pump it out onto a dock pump out if there is one, though there aren't many along the coast, and I can also pump it into the sea directly. That's my power charger, which I'm connected to the mains at the moment, so it regulates the power that's coming into the boat, and tells me the state of the batteries as well. This is the engine area, and there's a whole system here for opening everything up. The guy who built it said he spent 3 sleepless nights trying to figure out how to open up the engine room by using as few parts as possible, but also provide easy access. So there's a whole system here. It's great. So there's my lovely engine. I've had to do a few things to it along the way, like replace these hoses. This isn't my department either. I don't do everything myself. I do have friends who come in and do some cash in hand jobs for me, to do with mechanics, and I have replaced the fan belt before, and I can change the oil and the filters, but anything more than that, I'll leave it to somebody who knows more than me. As I said, I lived on a boat until I was 18 and went to live on land and had a career, raised a family, but always would take an opportunity of going sailing whenever I could. But I couldn't actually buy a boat, it just wouldn't fit into my life. Motorbikes became my land of freedom and mobility for many years. When we came to Canada to visit family here, we would go sailing. And the yearning grew until when we finally immigrated here 10 years ago, I bought a boat with my pension lump sum, and decided eventually, when my kids left home, I could actually do this. I could actually live on a boat full time. So in 2013, I moved onto the boat, and it wasn't a big enough boat to live on completely. So I rented somewhere for a while, waited until a separation settlement came in, and then I could buy this boat. This boat being, you know, like quite an expensive boat to have. It was like $35,000, and so, you know, I got back into sailing full time. Underneath the floorboards, like down here, is a 5-foot well that is a part of the bilge, and in it I have bilge pumps that get rid of any excess water. Though being a steel boat, she doesn't really leak very much unless it's coming from somewhere it shouldn't. So you open it to let water through. So one's for the toilet and one's for the saltwater intake here. And I keep these little bungs right next to them, because if you ever have a problem, you don't want the water to be flowing into your boat, so you shove a bung in it. I buy these bathroom mats from Value Village, second hand. So they're all different colours, but they stop you slipping on the floor, and they stop, more importantly, they stop visitors or cats, you know, because the cats have nails and they go and they slip down the sides of my boat, because everything's angled to the contours of the boat. So in here I have booze, and I also have at the back I have a 2000 watt inverter, and behind the seats I have, that's my cans drawer, that's my coffee drawer, compartment if you like. Lots of things hanging around that remind me of people and places, you know. People have drawn me things, you know, my grandchildren, knickknacks, memories of, you know, England, This is what the boat can look like with a spinnaker. It's my favourite sail. I didn't design it, the previous owners did, but it's a lovely sail to fly, and it really stands out whenever I'm out there, but I only fly it in light conditions. So the table, this is the tidiest it's been in a few weeks. The screen, I inherited that in coming to live on the boat, so it's great because it's a, you know, not just a little computer or a little gadget. The table has a neat little compartment in it here, like a little hidey hole to put extra knives and forks and spoons for when I have visitors. I have a friend to dinner often and we play cribbage, and this is the table that we're able to spread out on. I have several fire extinguishers. It's a bit of a fear of mine that if there's a fire it's likely to be at the aft end of the boat, and I'm sleeping, you'll see in a minute, I'm sleeping up in the bow, and often have the dinghy on top of the hatch, so it limits my egress, my way of getting out. And so I make sure that my fire extinguishers are certified, you know, every year. And I'm insured, you know, the boat's insured as well, and for insurance you have to do that. But I'm pretty fastidious about that. It's just an awful thought to be stuck in the bow with a fire in the middle of the boat, which is where all the electrics are. Some of the benefits of living on a boat are freedom to move, autonomy, meaning, you know, there's just me and I can make the decisions that I want to about where I go and when I go. I meet a lot of really interesting people who live an alternative lifestyle, kind of live on the fringe. I get lots of exercise. I have projects that keep me motivated, you know, in the colder, wetter months. And yeah, I have my own space. I have everything on hand. I do actually have a storage locker as well, which is another 120 a month, which is my go-to locker for all the paints and things that I need to repair things. The spinnaker is in there, so I get that out in the summer and put it away again in the fall. This is my tiller, which is in the process of being restored. I'm gluing, it's come a little bit delaminated, so I've been fixing it, waiting for nice sunny weather again. So there's more storage over here. This is the diesel heater. Nice friend in winter, very warm. It uses about 20 litres a week in the middle of winter if it's on all the time. It's, you know, it's not that cheap. But when I'm on the dock, I have an electric heater as well, which I try to use predominantly, apart from the really cold days, because I pay for $77 a month for shore power, so I might as well use the electric heat. But this, yeah, I've restored it. It's got a little carburetor in it. I have actually taken that out and cleaned it out on a couple of occasions. And this is a balance pipe, which means that the stove doesn't go out, so that the air is drawn in and air cannot be blown down this primary one, which will blow out the fire. You know, a friend recently had his boat catch on fire because he didn't have one of these, so it's very important to have that. I light it with a common mechanical, well, blowtorch, which, you know, I ignite. The diesel comes into the carburetor. I light the dish that's on top of it. It heats up the diesel and then ignites it, and can be regulated. Yep, and this is my bedroom up here, my comfy space. You'll see, I don't know if you can, with lots of cubby holes for clothes. The chain locker is up in the front there. I carry 270 feet of chain, which is out on the dock at the moment, because I mark it every 25 feet, and that mark wears off after a couple of years. And so I have 4 different colors for different 25 feet, and it's actually raised my bow by about 4 inches. It's about 500 pounds in weight. It's quite substantial, but that goes in that little cubby hole there. Hello, Tilly. I have wardrobes, but of course they are not filled with clothes. They're just everything else but goes in these. I don't have clothes that hang on hangers. In fact, I have clothes that if they don't go in one wash and come out the same size, or if they come out a different color, then I'm not going to keep them. They need to all be able to go in one wash. I also up here have, you recognize one of those. Normally they hang vertically in a wardrobe for shoes, but actually it's quite handy for shoving clothes in, and a hammock for extra bits. Underneath here are a bank of gel cells, which are the only ones that tend to fit into this space. So they're all underneath here, and they have to be locked in place because when you're sailing you don't want them moving around. I replaced them when I first bought the boat. I knew I was going to need to, and they were like $2,200 worth of batteries and really expensive, but they should last me at least 10 years, you know, so at least. Some of the challenges that I face living on in this lifestyle are repairing things that I don't know how to fix, and my brain just doesn't seem to absorb information in the way that it used to. So even if I YouTube it, I then don't remember all of the details that I need to. So I keep some savings in reserve for those extra costs. You know, sometimes it's quite windy. I know that I'm competent and capable of managing it all, but there are times when it would be nice to have an extra pair of hands. You know, one stormy night a couple of years ago, I was anchored in a spot that, with hindsight, perhaps I should have moved away from, and I dragged. And I had to, and I was on my own obviously, and I had to haul the anchor up, which involves being on the bow and also at the same time trying to keep a bit of power on so that nose is into the wind, and then coming down every 50 feet down through the boat to the chain locker up in the bow below the anchor winch, and knocking the mountain of chain over, because it all comes down one hole and piles up into a mountain, and you have to knock it over. So that was quite a challenge doing that, and avoiding hitting the rocks that were nearby. I then had to navigate out of the bay. You know, it was raining, it was windy, it was dark, and had to go into another bay, and you know, I was shaking a bit by the end of it. But I did achieve it, but that was a challenge, you know, and I don't mind challenges, because you grow from those challenges as well, and perhaps would make slightly different decisions about where you anchor. I associate a lot with younger people than me, and when we get together on a rainy, stormy day or whatever, and we're sitting down below, and I can tell that some people are a bit fidgety, so I get out the box of puzzles and they have great fun, and then there's like silence for about an hour as everybody is playing with all these different little puzzles that they can manipulate with their fidgety hands, you know. So yeah, I have a lot of fun. And meet a lot of people up and down this coast. I can travel wherever I want to, and yeah, enjoy the summer months. Well, enjoy my life. I love my life. It's yeah, I can't imagine not living on or near the water. This is Kiwi Grip, and Kiwi Grip, it means that I can walk around barefoot and not slip around. Now, when I first bought the boat, all the deck needed redoing, so I spent 3 years. The first year I did the deck. The second year I did the coach roof. You call it a cabin top, and did all the, you know, all the white work in between. Replaced all the Kiwi Grip, and I was able to do that. You know, I can do the painting, decorating kind of stuff, but just not the mechanical, electrical. So these are vents. So there's vents that go down below here. They have little brass fittings that I have yet to put back on again. This is the anchor winch. Normally the chain comes from here, which is normally it's attached here, comes over here and down into the chain locker. I have an electric winch, which is great, because anybody who's been on boats knows it's such a long, tedious job to pull up chain or rope, and mine is all chain, so up and down for the chain. So these are the 2 foresails, and this is why she's called a cutter, because she has this inner jib. If it had a boom, it would be called a staysail, but they're both roller furling, and I've just attached the sheets here. Normally they run back to the cockpit. 2 of them go through the dodger, but in winter I like to keep them up on the foredeck so that I don't get green lines along the deck. I have a nice bowsprit up here, which I love, you know, and I made a little seat for it, so you know, I have an auto helm, and I can be sailing along and be sitting here looking at my beauty as I sail along. It's very comfortable, You can sit and turn around the other way as well, facing outwards, going anywhere. Although the other day I went to the top of the mast in a bosun's chair, hauled up by some friends, to replace my wind indicator, which you'll see up at the top there, because the old one was broken by an eagle. And it tells me when I'm sailing, I use it a lot because you know, when I'm sailing, I like to know where the wind's coming from so that I can tune my sails. I'm a bit of a what I call a tweaker, and a tweaker is, in my language, is someone who plays with the sails constantly, you know, in windy conditions. I do that a lot. I'm often sailing with the lee rail in the water, which means I'm tipped up at about this kind of angle, and so water comes slushing on underneath here and is able to get out quickly because there's a gap. I've got a piece of wood to replace there at the moment. That's where the jib sheets attach. This is the waste from the head. If there's a pump out station, I can pump out from the holding tank. This is just a Wi-Fi antenna.
Huh.
So it means I get a boost from the office over there to get free Wi-Fi here, so I can watch anything I want, which is great in the winter. Yeah, and I usually leave here by beginning of June. And as I said, I have a pin out in the bay, and quite quickly I want to be off. I want to be going somewhere. Like I've got a friend of Cortez who's been doing some of the work here, and he's never been on a boat before, and his wife is off tree planting, so I said I would teach him how to sail while she's away, and so I'll pick him up on Cortez and just show him some of the islands and show him how to sail. He's from Kansas. I mean, he's just never been on a boat before, you know. This is like, blows his mind just to come and help me out here. It's great for me. So I mentioned that I got a lump sum to buy the boat with, which also came with a pension of $2,000 a month. And that $2,000 means that I can pay for my phone bill. My mortgage in the winter is $255 a month. You know, the far cry from looking for money to rent a place here, which is like, I don't know, $1,400, $1,800 a month in itself. The Wi-Fi comes including with that mortgage, as does the hydropower. Water is free. What other bills do I have? I have insurance on the boat. I have a car here. I have haul out fees. I have to repair and replace items on the boat, like, you know, that inverter was $600. You know, like the solar power, each panel costs $100. The controller for that, you know, that's, you know, another $80 or $100. I need to replace my VHF radio. You know, there are things that come out of that. I find I spend less in winter, spend more in the spring when I'm replacing and repairing, and then during the summer out at anchor I don't have to pay anything. Obviously diesel costs quite a bit now, but 3 litres an hour, and an hour is 5 miles, 5 knots really, 5 miles. But I sail mostly, and I anchor in the summer, so the costs are kept down that way. Food I probably get through, I don't know, 80 to 100 per week, something like that, on board. And my 2 cats, you know, cat litter and cat food. And there must be other expenses that I'm not thinking of at the moment, but yeah, those are my basic expenses here. I've learnt that I'm capable, and that I don't have to be with a partner in order to be content with who I am living on a boat. I've learned a lot of new things about boating over the years, you know, how much chain to let out, you know, when to reef the sails so that you're not presenting as much sail area to the wind. I've learned a lot about communicating with people as well, just different styles and perhaps being softer or addressing different issues differently. I don't know. I've learned that I can be a boat mum to other people's kids and be supportive, which is, it's just a wonderful feeling to be able to support those whose parents aren't around, if you like. You know, I think if anybody else wanted to live this lifestyle, I would say do it. Learn how to sail using a dinghy if you can. Learn something smaller, because if you can drive a mini, you can drive a sedan or a big car, and it's the same with a sailing dinghy. If you learn how to sail a dinghy, which is easily tippable and capsizable, then you learn about the wind and the direction and the force of the wind, so I would say that, though I know many people who just get on a boat and think it's easy and get out there and do it, and a lot of challenges face them. that might not have done if they'd at least sailed a dinghy to start with. But you know, sometimes that's the way it rolls. You know, there are a lot of people on the water who have no choice about. You know, the cost of living is so prohibitive that a boat is the only way that they can, the only place that they can afford to live in order to work in the service industry, for example. You know, so they have no choice, and they get on a boat, not having sailed before, and hope for the best. The kind of person that would be suited to this lifestyle is someone who wants to live this in the first place, who wants to live independently, who wants to be challenged by the many different aspects of the lifestyle that they choose, who is happy with their own company. I know many musicians. I'm not a musician myself, but I know many musicians that live on a boat, and it gives them that space to learn and to grow. So yeah, people who like their own company, definitely. You know, my philosophy in life, well, I suppose there are a number of different expressions that come to mind. One is that better to regret what you have done than what you haven't done, and not to live on the fear of the regret of yesterday or tomorrow, in order to prevent you living for today. You know, and if you want to live this lifestyle, then do it despite what society may think of you for it. You know, I think as far as what age I'll be able to do this until, I'm hoping to get, you know, I'm 59 now, 60 this year. I'm hoping to be able to get another 10 years on the boat, but in my future I see a van life, and being able to either a van life or a trailer somewhere with a van that means I can go across Canada, you know. So I might not be able to physically able to keep up with the maintenance and all the jobs on the boat, but I could, you know, go to a van. I do Facebook and to keep in touch with family and friends. I don't have a lot of followers, but my friends follow me, you know, and I don't join up people that I don't know. So I don't have a way that anybody can follow me, but you know, I'm here in Harriet Bay on Quadra Island, so if you want to meet me and you want to come down and say hi, then here I am. Maybe if you're lucky, I'll take you sailing, you know.
Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please share it with a friend. Also, if you want to watch more alternative dwellings, we got a playlist popping up right here, and we release new episodes every single Sunday, so consider subscribing.